John, should the Canucks throw stupid money at Sam Bennett in free agency, like 8, 9, even 10 million a year? Like, is he that much of a winner and that much of a solution for their top two center needs that the Canucks should just get crazy with Sam Bennett on free agency?
Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. He's going to play in two places. One of two places. He's going to play in Toronto, or he's going to play in Sunrise, Florida. That's it. That's his decision. He's not going to market the way other free agents go to market. He will go and play for the Panthers or the Maple Leafs. We just don't know which one yet.
Why you say the Leafs?
Would I like Sam Bennett on any team that I'm involved in? Absolutely. But the challenge will be is if you start investing time and money in trying to recruit Sam Bennett, are you going to lose somebody else? That's the real challenge. Don't waste your time.
Well, especially as a team acquiring him via free agency, then you're waiting past all the draft day deals and all that sort of stuff,
right,
and that impact your cap, and then you find yourself the brides left at the altar there, and you don't have anything.
By the way, because no team ever talked to agents before July 1st.
Right.
It never happened.
Right. So it's just the allure of him being a Toronto kid or an Ontario kid, the Leafs?
Yes, and I also think it's, I would describe it as ADS, the Atlantic Division Syndrome.
Well, yeah.
Everybody's stealing. You have to get through the Atlantic Division, and you have to get through Sam Bennett somehow. So why not have him on your side?
Yeah,
he's also exactly what they need. Exactly.
And by the way, remember his first manager. Remember who drafted him?
Mm-hmm. Brad Treliving in Calgary. Yeah, very good shout there. Well, so answer me this: do you think it's coming down to Bennett or Ekblad for Florida?
Yes, but I think there's a possibility they don't sign either of them. I think that's a real possibility at this point. This is a team. If you look at what the cap is, and I don't have it right in front of you, but they finished the season $10 million over. They had $10 million on long-term injured reserve by the end of the season, so they do have a lot of decisions to make. And I think it's a possibility that both Ekblad and Bennett are not Florida Panthers next year.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say it was, I didn't say it's 100%, but it's a possibility.
Yeah, and they're pretty cap tight with two of the absolute top free agents there in Bennett.
Well, and they've also got to figure out whether they want to re-sign Brad Marchand.
Yeah.
At what point, after 3 straight visits to the Stanley Cup final, and yes, I'm giving them that berth already, after 3 straight visits to the Stanley Cup final, at some point, sometimes these juggernauts realize, okay, the house of cards is going to start to fall just in terms of free agents leaving and all that sort. When does Florida make that assessment, do you think? After this year, do they try to eke a couple more years out of this?
Ooh, 2 years is a long time in this league, Blake,
yeah.
with and particularly the way Florida plays the game.
And of course, if you're proactive, you can stock the cupboard and bounce from the bottom pretty quickly if you're proactive.
Well, and over the next 3 years, 96, 103, 114, right? That's where the cap is going. So if you can, budget your dollars accordingly and find a way to scoot the system, then yes, it's possible. But that's going to be a real challenge for Bill Zito. If they win the Stanley Cup this year, I wonder if they have a discussion about, okay, is now the time after 2 consecutive cups, if they win, to do a reset and rebuild, because you have to have long range planning in order to keep playing at this level, and if you don't, and you start to mortgage the future quickly, you see what happened in Detroit after all those years of 25 years of making the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs in 8 since then, and look what's happened in Chicago after winning 3 Stanley Cups and again mortgaging the future and trading draft picks and whatever. it's a difficult decision to make in the cycle. Pittsburgh's the same way. So it's going to be fascinating to watch Florida try to stay above the fray. Now, they've done a really good job this year. They did a great job in getting Seth Jones and getting Brad Marchand, but they did that with going over the cap. And now they have to rethink what they're doing. And Bennett and Ekblad and Marchand are now three guys that they have to wonder what they do with.
They've got 7 players signed for at least 5 more years, and of those 7, only one doesn't have a no-move clause, and that's Anton Lundell. So,
they have.
They're in a bit of jail there.
Well, they've got 76, 77 million committed next year. Really, only one RFA of note in Samoskevich, but yes, some UFAs that they would either have to re-sign or replace next year, as Brad noted, or as John noted, with Brad Marchand, Sam Bennett, and of course, Aaron Ekblad. If Carolina loses, whether it's tonight or in Game 5, do you anticipate a reckoning there?
I don't. I think that there will be some frustration on the owner's mind that why can't I get over the top? But in many ways, for Eric Tulsky, it wasn't for lack of trying. He did go out and, we've talked long and hard about this for 2 years, that Carolina always needed a game breaker. They needed that guy. Well, they went out and got him, and then it fell apart. And so, it wasn't for lack of trying that they went out and got Mikko Rantanen, and it just never worked out. What in making the trade with Dallas, I'm not, Logan Stankoven's a nice player, but really the key to the trade were the draft picks. And so if Tom Dundon's into the long haul, as I think he is, then he will have some frustration of losing in the 3rd round again. But I don't expect Rod Brind'Amour to be changed. I don't expect Eric Tulsky to be changed, then I don't think that there'll be much change on their roster.
Well, I ask because in some views, Rantanen got there, saw the way Brind'Amour wanted to play, right, with shoot the puck at every opportunity, and basically thought, this ain't my game. I've got more creativity than that. I don't want to be just another drone in this system, dumping, chasing, retrieving, and shooting. Does the Brind'Amour system, do you think it's going to limit the ability to attract those game breakers, those highly skilled and talented forwards?
The only way you're going to get them is through trades. You're not going to get them through free agency. So it's a great place to live, great place to raise a family, which is always, it's funny. I had to talk with somebody on the weekend about the difference in attitudes of basketball players and football players to hockey players. Players look for lifestyle stability more than anybody else. And so it's a great place to live. And, you have a small but passionate fan base that love you. And they play a different style of game than almost anybody else in the National Hockey League. Really doesn't cater itself to the playoffs. So that becomes the real challenge. And people in the organization will disagree with us, but it's too many times it's proven to be true. They can't elevate because they play that way all the regular season. There's nothing more to give.
On paper, though, I'm amazed it doesn't work because, it preaches forechecking, it preaches tenacity, and things, sort of adjectives that we apply to the playoffs all the time are a part of the Brind'Amour system, but it still doesn't seem to translate.
No, because it's not necessarily about Carolina, but it is about the other team. And what Florida is able to do is manage expectation for 82 games. Florida didn't have 100 points this year. 100 points seems to be the new key number, but Florida didn't have 100 points. They didn't care. Once they knew they had a playoff spot, they were fine. Then they prepared for the playoffs. And that's the one thing you learn when you go through 2 or 3 years the Panthers have gone through, is you hone your skill to be able to elevate in the postseason. And that's what they do at the trade deadline with the acquisitions they made. And that's what they do once the playoffs start. You elevate your game. And quite frankly, the other team that has changed for this year is Edmonton. Edmonton has done the same thing after the first 2 games of the playoffs. They have elevated their game to a playoff level. And there's some irony to that. Or maybe that's not irony, that's coincidence. But they happen to be the 2 teams that went to the Stanley Cup final last year. And I think there's a very good chance that the team in the Stanley Cup final next week.
John, I am this close to believing in Edmonton Oilers goaltending and goal prevention.
Oh, stop it.
Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Am I right too?
Yeah.
Have they solved the riddle?
Stewart's been really good. I'm happy for Stewart. I like Stewart. I tell you what, guys, the amazing thing about Stuart Skinner is Stuart Skinner will talk to you anytime, any day, any place. No matter game day, off day, at the supermarket. Stuart Skinner's that type of person.
He has been extraordinarily stand-up here through all the travails,
tremendous.
John. And you're absolutely right. There are so many goaltenders who would have tapped out of any kind of public discourse around him, his game, what's going on in the Oilers' goal, losing the job, getting the job back. And he has been there to answer every question along the way. I got a lot of time for that.
So do I, which is you do end up with a soft spot for guys that you can literally sit in their stall and 20 minutes and the trainer's looking at you, would you please leave? And we're talking about everything under the sun about goaltending because he just loves it on a game day, guys.
On a game day.
Yeah. So does it look like it's back? Yeah, it does. He Kevin Bieksa last night on the Rogers television show said you could see the swagger. And you can see it in him. I see it more in one type of play. I see him with the big glove save. When he has the big glove save going, he's in the groove. And you saw it last night. And last night was by far his best game of the playoffs, even though it wasn't a shutout. I think 34 saves last night. So that to me is impressive. The challenge will always be is how quickly can the wheels fall off, and how quickly. Now, last year in the conference final and in the Stanley Cup final, the wheels really didn't fall off, and here we are in the conference final, and he appears to be in that groove.
For Canucks fans watching the playoffs and wondering how they get a little bit better, I don't think anybody's under the delusion that they're going to get to the conference or Stanley Cup final next year. But as they try to make some progress, become a playoff team next year, and maybe threaten to win a round, the path there seems very uncertain in the fact that the Canucks have some salary cap space. They're not cap tight necessarily. But, of course, most teams can boast that, at least in the National Hockey League with the cap going up. Mm-hmm. Is it going to be just a crazy free agent season? And even before that, trading season, because everybody's in the game? Like, Canucks fans, if you have your blinders on and forget that 31 other teams exist, you can come up with plan A, B, C, D, and E. But there is 31 other teams, and they've all got their plans. And what are the chances that there's still a chair for you to sit down on when the music stops?
I have a lot of metaphors there.
Yeah, there are. Sorry. Yeah.
It's good.
He speaks in metaphors.
So the free agent market is not that deep. Like the big names are not that deep. So I suspect, even though it is a remote draft, we're probably going to see more around the draft than we are on July the 1st. Now there'll be a frenzy of signings on July the 1st, whether it's Rich Marner or Nikolai Ehlers, or Brad or Sam Bennett. But I think there'll be more around the draft, Blake, just because there's another asset you can play with, and you can try to deal with futures. Like the Canucks I think are at 15. Like, I don't expect the Canucks to draft. That's my own personal opinion. I do not expect the Canucks to draft. I think that they're going to trade the pick to get somebody that can help them next year, because that's what they need. And I see that happening more around the draft than I do in free agency.
Well, I think they want to do that, John. To Blake's point, everybody's looking for a top 2 center. Like I saw you musing.
That's the same every year. That's the same every year, and some find it and some don't. And you have to run the gamut. And you know that between now and that third week of June, there'll be tons of phone calls being made, because even teams that are still playing in the playoffs are making phone calls. They're managers.
Oh, you got no choice now.
That's right. That's right. You
Last
have no
year
choice.
illustrated it, John. You had scouts who had to miss the Stanley Cup parade because they were prepping for the draft and free agency. It's the damnedest thing how the Cup final runs into the offseason. I wish they'd let it breathe a little more. Anyways, some will, some won't. And that's why I think one's going to probably have to overpay, whether it's in dollars in free agency, whether it's in trade cost, to get what you want.
Well, summer. I mean, agents and players know the cap's going up too, not just the teams.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's documented.
Unfortunately, transparency.
Yeah. All right, Shannon, fairways and greens until next week. Thank you.
Lucky buggers. Mm-hmm. Save me a bottle of that bogey juice.
We will. I got one right behind my shoulder here for you.
Beautiful.